Welcome to October Safety Meeting. We've got a good amount of stuff to talk about today, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. We're going to start with talking about slips, trips, and falls. This is not a new concept to all of you. I'm sure we've all heard the words slips, trips, and falls. But we need to bring it up every once in a while to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and we're preventing any injuries that could happen. So after today's lesson, we're going to talk about, or we're going to learn about recognizing the effects of slips, trips, and falls, identify areas where slips, trips, and falls may occur, and understand ways to prevent slips, trips, and falls. If you look at the picture here, we've got a large number of people falling. This is probably to some a fun type of fall, so not the type of fall we're going to talk about today, not the on-purpose fall. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health states that 27% of 380,000 non-fatal work injuries resulting in days away from work in 2018 were related to slips, trips, and falls. I can say that probably in 2018 that was the case. Non-fatal work injuries were due to slips, trips, and falls here at CST. If I were to go back and pull the records, I want to say that your diligence in this has lowered that number substantially. So far this year, we have had 3 falls. That number is really good. I'd like to see none. I don't want to see any of you get hurt, but do appreciate the diligence and just taking care of where you're walking. And I know that nobody wants to get hurt, so keep up the good work on that. Most slips, trips, and trips end up in a fall. According to the good old CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, falls are serious and costly. 1 out of 5 falls causes an injury, such as a broken bone or head injury. I know that I myself know several people, elderly mostly, that have fallen and broken a bone, and that is, for lack of a better term, kind of the end for them. I know my grandmother and my grandfather both, they fell and had broken bones, and they just kind of deteriorated from there. So we need to really be careful out there. I don't want to see anybody fall and then not be able to come back to work. That would be heartbreaking for everyone. So don't slip. How do we do that? You see a spill, clean it up. Don't take it upon somebody else to clean it up unless you physically struggle with bending down, or I don't want you to fall trying to clean up a spill from a fall, or a spill and then fall trying to prevent your fall. Anyway, if you see some fluid on the floor, just take it upon yourself to find a rag or a paper towel and clean it up. Keep cords secured. If you see cords in somebody's office, I know for a minute when I just moved into my office, I had a cord across the floor, and I quickly found a solution to where I could put the cord. So if you are a staff member and you have an office and you have cords, please be aware that those cords could be a trip hazard, and figure out a way to secure them. If you need help figuring it out, come and see me. We can brainstorm together. Keep work sites lit. We have some pretty good lighting in our parking lots. However, when it comes to between the buses out in the bus yard, it's important that you carry a flashlight with you. on these really dark mornings. Wearing proper footwear is a really big topic. We're going to dive into that here in a little bit. So some common causes of slips, trips, and falls. If you can see the picture here on the right, there's some potholes. Believe it or not, I did not take this picture from our bus yard. I pulled it from the internet, and there's probably hundreds of driveways and roadways that look like this. So this could be anywhere. Common causes of slips, trips, and falls. This time of year, we need to really be looking out for snow or ice covered steps, walks, or roadways. Also, liquids on walking surfaces. Water can cause a slippery surface, especially if there's some oil or other contaminant on the concrete or asphalt that can mix with it that would make it really slippery. Debris such as parts, electrical cords, and boxes. Around here, the debris could be rocks, limbs, leaves, those sorts of things. Let's talk about leaves a little bit as well. I know that's not on my list here, but leaves, we all know, can be as slippery as an ice rink. So keep an eye out for those. If you see a surface covered with leaves, take extra caution and don't let yourself fall. Boxes left in walking areas, we see that in the hallway here sometimes. I know that when they start to pile up, we make sure that they get moved pretty quickly. We don't want anybody tripping over them. We talked about uneven walking surfaces such as potholes. Poor visibility caused by weather or poor lighting conditions. This is something that we will be facing this winter, I know, so let's be vigilant and take caution. Climbing ladders or steps can cause trip or fall. We have bus steps that we climb. It's very important that we climb those properly. Loose mats and rugs. If you see a mat or a rug that is flipped up, flip it back. If you're not able to, come and tell somebody and we can get that figured out. We don't want anybody tripping over mats or rugs. What are some other slip, trip, and fall hazards? Can you think of any in our location? If you can think of some in our location, come and talk to me. I would love to know about those. And I can either discuss with you what we've done to prevent that slip, trip, or fall, or we can discuss ways to prevent it. Common locations that you've encountered these types of hazards. Again, tell me where those locations are. I know that this fall, the sidewalk out in front of row 1 was covered with those go-ahead weeds, and that was a huge tripping hazard, so we took care of that first. I hope you've noticed that the weeds in the rest of the yard that are tripping hazards have been dealt with. If they haven't, and you see something out there that I have not seen yet, something in between the buses, please come and let me know, because they should all be gone by now. Protecting ourselves. How do we protect ourselves against slips, trips, and falls? One way that we can prevent a trip or fall is assessing the workplace for hazards. Just looking around. Be vigilant of where you're walking and what's around. If, like you see this photo over here with the cords, if you were to see this in a workplace, you could step over it, divert. Another way, clean up spills and anything else that may cause a slip or trip hazard. If you're filling up your water bottle in the kitchen and you accidentally spill some water on the floor, grab a paper towel and clean it up. Before using equipment like a ladder, inspect it, use it properly, and don't go over the manufacturer's weight limit. We have some ladders out at the fuel island. If you were to see that one of these ladders was missing a wheel, or it was tilted, or it was not properly functioning, don't use it. Find another way, or contact the shop, let them know it's broken, but don't use it. It could cause a fall. Don't carry anything that will obstruct your vision. So I know a lot of you carry things out to your bus certain times of year. Maybe you have stickers or pencils for your riders, and so you've got a box and you're carrying it, or can't see my arms, but you know, if you've got your arms out and you've got stuff piled up so high that you can't see, that's a hazard. It's also a hazard if you become unstable and unbalanced because you're carrying too much. It's really important that when you're walking to your bus and you're carrying stuff, put it in a bag. If you got your arms all filled up with stuff, it's going to be a lot more difficult to keep your balance or to catch yourself if you do trip. Not to mention, you're not able to really look down and see what's in front of you. So carrying things is probably one of our biggest problems when it comes to falls. Don't jump down from a ladder or equipment. So if you are on maybe the ladder out by the fuel island washing your windows, don't take that bottom step and skip the first one. You know, use all of the steps. That leads us to the 3 points of contact. That one's vital. If you have either 2 feet and 1 hand in connection with something at all times, that's 3 points of contact. If you have 2 hands and 1 foot, so ideally, if you've got rails on the left and the right side of you, and you hold those and you pull yourself up the stairs or down the stairs, that is the best way to prevent yourself from falling off the stairs. If you have stuff in your hands and you need to get on the bus, I highly recommend that if you're getting on the bus, you set your belongings down on the top floor of the bus, and then you have both of your hands free to move up. Same for going down. If you have stuff you need to take off the bus, set it down on the floor right by the stairs there, go down the stairs, and then retrieve your stuff from the bus. For those of you that really struggle with balance, I know one way to help going down the stairs at least is to go backwards. If you really struggle with that going down head first on those stairs because they're steep, just turn around and go down the first stair. Then you've got your other hand to brace yourself with. It just gives you a lot of extra stability. That really is, I know it takes a little bit longer, but it really is a safe way to go if you struggle with balance. So I would highly recommend that. I don't want to see anybody this winter looking like this lady in the picture. It looks painful. And if you notice, she doesn't have any cleats on her boots. So let's talk about that. Snow and ice. When moving near or around your vehicle, protect yourself by looking at your walking surface before stepping. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Just look down. Look at what's in front of you and look at where you're walking. Some common hazards are going to include snow, ice, mud, and potholes. We will have all of that this winter. So look at where you're walking. Be prepared for uneven walking surfaces. That's going to mean that we pick our feet up, we take our time, we really are vigilant of what's in front of us. I know that sometimes it's a good idea to have a walking stick. I know that when I hike in the mountains, a lot of times, it's not even winter, it's spring, and it could be really muddy, and I take a walking stick just to give myself that added protection. Those walking sticks are fantastic tools. A lot of them are collapsible, so you can use it to get out to your bus, and then you can collapse it down and stick it in a bag. There's other possible hazards around here are pebbles and rocks. I know that there's been some instances where people have fallen due to tripping over a rock. That's something that could have been avoided by looking down, looking where you're going, and you could have stepped over it. So be prepared for any of those. When moving near or around your vehicle, protect yourself by continuing to look for hazards as you walk around or inspect your vehicle. So this is talking about your pre-trip. I had a couple of people this fall come to me and tell me that the weeds out in between the buses were really bad. Took me a minute, but I did get out there and get those removed, and then I found out that there were more that I missed, and somebody came and told me about that. Those are the ones I'm hoping are now gone. So be prepared for those hazards. I know some of you like to have a mat by your door. It's fine. It gives you a good reference point to where to pull your bus. The only thing that I want to caution is to be careful that you don't trip over it. Using designated foot and handholds when climbing. For us, getting up and down the bus stairs, it's really the handholds. Make sure that the rail is secure every day. Give it a shake before you get on. Look at your stairs. Do you have any tread that's torn or cut or damaged that could cause a tripping hazard? All of those things you should be looking for. Take extra precautions, move slower, and be deliberate in your actions. When it's snowy and icy out there, even when it's not, walking deliberately will avoid a fall. I put this picture up here because I thought it was funny, and I don't know who in their right mind would think this was a good idea. If you think it's a good idea, maybe we need to have a chat about what a good idea is. But he's got two sawhorses, it looks like, on top of scaffolding, just a fall waiting to happen. So don't be this guy. Don't make these types of decisions. Using protective equipment. Using protective equipment may reduce slips, trips, and falls by wearing proper footwear that has slip-resistant soles with a good ankle support. Slip-resistant soles can be found on a lot of work shoes. I know that I've been shoe shopping and I've seen it on the boxes. They say slip-resistant soles. Those are great to have. It doesn't matter what industry you work in. It's good to have slip-resistant soles. Let's talk about the ankle support though. How many of you think about your ankle support when you get on, when you put your shoes on every morning? I know I don't. I think I want to wear cute shoes that are functional. I don't really worry about ankle support. In the winter time, however, when the weather starts to get a little worse, I do think about it. I have a couple of pairs of really good winter boots. I would recommend getting some. Winter boots that have an ankle support could save you a lot of heartache and pain. Using fall protection when required. Those are your cleats. We will be giving cleats out this year, probably at the end of October. So first part of November, start looking for those. We will sign them out. Hopefully we have enough for everyone. If you prefer to have your own, that's fine. I know I have a pair that I've been using for years that I love. just let us know that you have your own and we'll sign you off on them. Wearing head protection when required. If you were to go into the shop and the mechanic says, please wear a hard hat, wear a hard hat. I don't know that if that's ever happened here, but if somebody suggests that you wear head protection, it's for a reason. So that's another way to prevent an injury. Using gloves for added grip when climbing. I don't know about you, but I have a pair of winter gloves that has the padding on the inside. It's a little grippy. I like wearing those when I'm driving because it gives me a little added grip on that steering wheel when I'm pushing and pulling. There's not as much slide there, and it gives me a lot more control. It can also be used when I'm climbing the stairs. That handrail, it gives me that extra grip on the handrail. Use a flashlight, a hat light, or a helmet light in properly lit areas. So I like hat lights a lot. I think they're great. They work well when you're doing a pre-trip. It keeps your hands free. The only thing I recommend is that if you're talking to somebody, be vigilant that that light could be right in their eyes. So maybe shut it off when you're talking to someone face to face, or you maybe flip your hat up, or if you have a hat, if you have a headlight, a headlamp, same thing. Flashlights are great. I know most of you have them. I've seen you out there with them. I see them in your buses when I get on your buses. So they're really important to have, not just looking around your bus for your pre-trip, but even with some of those dome lights that come on inside the bus when you turn them on. When it's really dark out there, you can't see under the seats even with the dome lights on. And you don't want to end up getting on your bus and having somebody on there that you just can't see in the morning. It's a protection for you. So get yourself a good flashlight. Using footwear traction aids such as oversole grips. We already talked about the cleats. Those will be coming out. If you get your cleats and you aren't sure how to use them, or they're a struggle for you to use, let's figure out a good way to do that, to help you get those on. When do we use our cleats? Well, it's my understanding, and this is my first winter here, so I'm going by what other people have told me. It's my understanding that there's a flag that's put out by the gate when you pull in and you see that flag. I think they said it's yellow. When you see that flag, you know that before you get out of your car, you need to have your cleats on. And you need to wear them out to your bus. Now, if you slip on ice and you fall and you hurt yourself and you're not wearing the proper attire that the company has distributed, like the cleats, it's going to be very hard to defend you in a workman's comp case, because we've given you the equipment to protect yourself. It's up to you to use it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, correct? So let's move on. What do we do if we see a hazard in the yard or anywhere in the building? If you see a hazard that can cause injury to yourself or someone else, report it to your supervisor immediately. This location is very good about that, so I thank you. You guys have done an amazing job alerting me or Paul or Rebecca of hazards in the yard. Keep up the good work. I want to talk a little bit about how we report it. Coming and telling us is great. However, we have a lot on our plates some days, and some days you can come in and you can talk to me and we can have a conversation about what happens, a hazard, but then the next person comes in and talks to me about another problem, and then I forget exactly what you and I have talked about. Not necessarily the whole detail. I'll remember that we had a conversation, but when you report something, it's really important that you write it down. Write an incident report. Those forms are there. It's not necessarily an incident, but if you file an incident report, then I've got it on record. I keep those on file, those incident reports, and I can go back and I can say, oh yeah, I had that conversation with this person. I need to get on that. I need to work on that. So writing it down is very important for any problem that you have, whether it be reporting a hazard, reporting an incident on your bus, reporting anything. It needs to be written down in order for us to be able to handle it. Okay, we're going to move into backing. This year so far, we've had some backing incidents, and we need to discuss those. Backing in the yard, procedures. How many of you know what the procedure is? I bet all of you know what the procedure is. How many of you practice the procedure regularly? There's a few of you that seem to think that maybe the rules don't apply to you. So we're going to go over the rules, and yes, they apply to you. You need to be doing these procedures when you back in the yard. It doesn't matter where it is. If you're backing out of your spot, if you're backing by the shop, the procedure's the same. The first thing we do is we turn on our hazards. We sound our horn, at least 2 honks, beep, beep. If you think that maybe somebody isn't getting the message that you're backing, lay on it. Give it a little bit more of a beep. And then you need to look. Rocking and rolling. That just doesn't mean checking your mirrors like this. Some of you don't even check your mirrors like this. Some of you just bail out of your parking spot. I've seen it. But you need to be really looking. I need you to be leaning back, going forward, leaning back, going forward, looking over your shoulders, getting that big picture all the way around your bus. And then, once you know it's clear, you back slowly. This is a big one. Some of you rip out of your parking spots like it's a freeway. You should not be throttling to back out of your parking spot. You need to be letting the momentum of your bus pull you out. There should be no throttling. It should be less than 5 miles an hour. So if you have a monitor on your bus, your monitors, this is for you. You need to be watching out the back with your driver. Be that extra set of eyes and ears for your driver. That's something that you can do. It's something that you should do. If you're unsure of how that looks or unsure what that means, please come and talk to me. I will demonstrate. I will help you learn how to watch for your driver. Help be that extra set of eyes and ears. Then you need to always be looking all the way around your bus, including both sides. And watch your mirror brackets. So the incidents that we have had in the yard this year have involved I think they were looking at their student mirror as they were backing and not watching their sides, because a couple of them have been brackets that have you turn out too sharply too soon before you've cleared that bus to your right, and you clip your bracket that way. There's just been so many backing incidents that in the yard, which is not acceptable. There's no reason for that. Backing in a loading zone at a school is a terrible idea. It is so unsafe on so many levels, but if you must, and there are times you must. Let's talk first about the times that you don't need to. If you pull into a loading zone and there's a vehicle in the loading zone that doesn't belong there, and you're not sure if it's going to be moving, just don't pull up close behind it. Leave yourself an out. If you pull into a loading zone and there's another bus there that's loading or unloading, you absolutely should never be backing. So either leave yourself an out or just be patient and wait. That bus will likely be moving. If you are a bus in a loading zone and you've unloaded and you know that you're not going to be leaving for a while, pull forward and put your hazards on. The hazards in a loading zone indicate to other drivers that they can go around you safely, that you have control of the bus, you have control of the students on your bus, and that you're not loading and unloading. This seems to be a concept that is confusing to some, but just pull forward, put your hazards on, and use those hazards as a communication tool. It's a switch on your steering wheel. It's not hard to put your hazards on. I had some guy, I asked him if he could put his hazards on, and he said, well, I've never done it before. Do it! Put your hazards on in the loading zone so people know. All right, I'm over that tangent. If you must back in a loading zone, and it's an absolute must, it should never be the first go-to. You have to have a spotter. That's not an option. It's mandatory. So you either need to have another driver come and help you, or a monitor, or another school personnel, an adult, not a student. A driver is preferred, and that's because another driver has gone through the training you've gone through, and they understand what you're looking for and are able to communicate probably in more of that driver way that you need. Now, that being said, another adult can help. You just need to make sure that when you're setting up your backup for them, with them, that you are sure that you're both using the same hand gestures. So make sure that you communicate what gesture you're using for stop and for go, maybe for lefts and rights if that needs to be, but make sure that you're on the same page. Have the driver stand on the driver's side in the rear so the driver can see them in the flat mirror. They should be able to see them in that flat mirror so it's not construed in the convex mirror. And like always, use your hazards and sound your horn when backing. Some people have turnarounds on their route. If they're built into your route, they've been checked out, somebody's gone out there, look to make sure it's safe. If you get a turnaround on your route, maybe you're new to the route or you're a new driver, and you're not sure how to maneuver this turnaround, come and talk to somebody. Talk to me, talk to a trainer. We can help you out, let you know the best way to turn around. When you're out there and you get stuck, I've seen it, it happens. There's construction all over this place. The signs sometimes aren't the greatest. It's always preferred to go around the block. Even if it's a 2-mile block, a 2-mile detour, just go around. It's always the safest bet. You'll never have to answer to your actions. If you have a go around, go around. It's the best. Always, if you don't have a turnaround or a go around the block scenario and you have to back, look for a place that is wide enough and long enough to back into. You never want to pull your nose into a turnaround. You always want to back into it and then pull yourself out. The reason is those side roads are going to be a lot less traveled than maybe the road you're on, but also it's easier and it's visibly easier to pull out of a space going forward than it is to back out of a space. Some of you know this just for parking in parking lot. If you're in a busy parking lot, it's a lot easier to pull nose out and to back into a spot. So always back in to a road or a wide driveway if that's all you have. Maybe you're out in the farmland. I'm not talking about if you're in a subdivision. You better not be backing anywhere, let alone a driveway. You can always go around. So you want to back in. If you're not sure what is behind you when you're backing, secure your bus and get up and look. I say get up and look because if you have students on the bus, you can secure your bus, walk to the back, peek your head out the door, make sure there's nothing behind you. If you don't have kids on the bus, it's always ideal to get out and look. Get out, secure your bus and get out and take a loop around your bus. That way you've got a good visual of where you are in proximity to everything around you, not just behind you, but to your sides. If you're not sure and you really just are really stressing, call dispatch. They are there to be your guide. They are there to help. They might be able to pull up on maps where your location is and tell you that if you were to go down that road that you're going to think about backing into, maybe if you were going to go all the way down it, and they're going to tell you there's a huge turnaround at the end of it that you wouldn't have to back in. Let them be your guide. Let them help you. And again, always use your hazards and sound your horn before you back. So that's it for my portion of the meeting. Thank you for your attention. Next up is Rebecca. She's going to give us some talk about FERPA and the laws pertaining to FERPA. If you don't know what FERPA is, stay tuned. If you do know what FERPA is, stay tuned because there's some really good information there.
Hello, CST family. We are going to be talking about the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA. There is a quiz on this information, so please pay close attention during this training. FERPA is a federal law that protects the personally identifiable information in a student's education records from unauthorized disclosure. It also affords parents the right to access their child's education records, the right to seek to have those records amended, and the right to have some control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information from the education records. When a student turns 18, and or enters a post-secondary institution at any age, the rights under FERPA transfer from the parents to the student. This is also referred to as an eligible student. The FERPA statute is found at 20 USC 1232, and the regulations for FERPA are found at 34 CFR Part 99. It's important to understand the terms that the federal law references. Education records, for example, are any record that directly relates to a student and is maintained by the district or by us. We are considered under this law as a third-party contractor or provider. Education records come in a host of different forms, anything from transcripts and class lists to manifests and seating charts, as well as health records, IEPs, disciplinary records, video footage, audio recordings, course schedules, incident reports, etc. Education records are not just maintained by the district. We also maintain education records. Another term that we need to break down is personally identifiable information, also referred to as PII. PII includes direct identifiers, such as the student's name or family member's name. Indirect identifiers, such as the student's date of birth or mother's maiden name. Metadata, which is a set of data that describes and gives information about other data. And aggregate information, which is any information that has been compiled into data summaries like manifests. The main thing to remember is if any reasonable person in the school community could identify an individual student based on the indirect identifiers together with other reasonable available information, including public information, that is considered personally identifiable information, or PII. Education records are used to provide transportation services, which means we must adhere to the regulations under FERPA. This is determined because of the following true statements. Number one, we perform a service that West Ada School District provides to the community. Number two, we are under the direct control of West Ada School District with respect to the use and maintenance of education records. And number three, we use education records only for authorized purposes related to safely transporting students. It's important to know that FERPA considers us all school officials with a legitimate educational interest in the students' welfare. There are some important points that I want to mention about FERPA and how it relates to transportation providers like us. FERPA governs the use of personally identifiable information when it's in use, which is basically every school day of the year. West Ada School District is ultimately responsible for the protection of that information. Another important point is that consent to disclose personally identifiable information can only be used for the purposes authorized by West Ada School District, like creating routes and seating charts, manifests, things like that. When it comes to disciplinary actions or measures, however, we have to tread carefully because West Ada School District has limitations on what they have authorized us to disclose. This is why it is so important to follow the proper channels if you have a disciplinary issue. The student management coordinators are trained on a proper processes and procedures that need to be followed. Because FERPA guarantees parents the right to access their child's educational records, including those that are maintained by us, the contractor, it's extremely important to utilize the student management coordinators because disclosing education records of one student while maintaining the confidentiality of the other students on the bus is massively important. The last point that I want to share is that FERPA also requires transparency on how we use, store, secure, and keep our student data confidential. So that's a lot of information, right? But how does it apply to you as the driver or monitor? The best rule of thumb is to maintain confidentiality between yourself and the members of staff that are in a need to know role. If it is a disciplinary issue, discussions about it should only be had in a closed office with either an SMC or a manager. If it is in regards to your manifest or seating chart, keep your words general, or if you need to be specific about a certain student, do so in a confidential manner with only the people who can help find a solution. This could be your router, a trainer, a dispatcher, an SMC, or a manager. Something that could be a pitfall is discussing student information in open or common areas like the driver room or parking lot. Another element to consider is radio transmissions. We must only transmit first name and last initial when reporting a student name over the radio. If you ever wondered why this was a rule, this is why. Other important details to think about is not disclosing a student's living situation. Be very careful about what you post on social media. The way that FERPA defines personally identifiable information means that even vague information could still identify a student. Violations of FERPA can lead to disciplinary action, so it's very important to understand your responsibility. Confidentiality is an important part of being in the educational industry. I really appreciate how seriously everyone is taking this responsibility. Transporting these rascals is such an important job. We really do have the best school bus drivers and monitors because it is so evident how much you guys care about these kiddos. In a year that has had bigger mountains to climb than before, it's really great to work with people who strap on their mountain climbing gear each morning and grab a rope so that we can take a few more steps towards the top. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. You are the reason these kiddos are getting to school. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing, and as always, please stay safe.